Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our Talks with Walt, as we are calling our readings through the deathbed edition of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. We turn now to Camps of Green, poem number 9 of the 17, so we're halfway through Songs of Parting. Think about the power of color. I mean, we've commented on this so many times in earlier lectures. Think about the power of the different colors in Leaves of Grass. And of course, green here, and the fact that grass is often green is going to be significant for us. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Talks with Walt, everything from the inscriptions up through and including a set of introductory comments to Songs of Parting, and then we just finished with Pensive. Now, our Nortons will tell us about green, that it appeared with the present title in Drum Taps in 1865, and in the same supplement to Leaves of Grass, 1867. It was transferred to the Ashes of Soldiers group in Passage to India, 1871, with minor revisions then, and in its present relocation in Leaves of Grass in 1881. Now, this is one of those little poems that's just kind of hidden away in Leaves of Grass. And there are a lot of readers that are unfamiliar with it, but I find it compelling. Now, green is used as a color mentioned, you'll remember in Song of Myself number 2, Stuff of Green Leaves. Obviously, Whitman is playing around with this motif even now here at the end, as we go now under 100 poems remaining in Leaves of Grass. Nor alone those camps of white, old comrades of the war. So here we are back again. We have said that Whitman's theodicy, that answer to the question, why did this have to happen? Not to us, but for us. And the antecedent to the pronoun it is obviously the horrific war. The comrades, of course, we've seen this all the way through Camarero and comrades, all the way through Leaves of Grass, of the wars. Notice it's plural. When is ordered forward after a long march, footsore and weary, soon as the light lessens, we halt for the night. Now, for the rest of the poem, Whitman will take the persona of the soldier. Now, this is significant, as we said in our study of Drum Taps, and especially Woundresser. The way that Whitman is able to identify with the other all the way through Leaves of Grass is compelling, but especially with the young men that he ministered to, he nursed, and yes, of course, he says it, he loved. Some of us, so fatigued, by the way, the only use of fatigued in all Leaves of Grass is right here, fatigued, carrying the gun and knapsack, dropping asleep in our tracks. Others pitching their little tents, and the fires lit up began to sparkle. We're familiar with his use of that word in Drum Taps. Outposts of pickets posted, surrounding, alert through the dark. We've seen this in other images as well, right? The concern of what terrible things can happen in the darkness, in the night. And of course, if you're a soldier of Whitman's day in your education, you've probably read the Aeneid, and of course you're familiar with that terrible, horrific, and yet somehow stunning passage where two warriors under cover of night will go and kill a bunch of the opposing troops. So the idea of sleeping at night when you're in war is obviously very difficult. And a word provided for countersign, only used twice, countersign in all Leaves of Grass, it's in this poem. Countersign, careful for safety, till to the call of the drummers at daybreak, loudly beating the drums. Of course, drum beats comes to mind. We rise up refreshed, the night and sleep passed over. It's interesting that sleep passed over. It's almost like sleep is done, and or we've gone without legitimate sleep. And resume our journey. Of course, the Odyssey stands, as we said at the very beginning, in our very first comments about Leaves of Grass. Homer's Odyssey stands behind so much of Leaves of Grass. Our journey or proceed to battle. And now the second stanza, lo, and again, this use of that word to emphasize the reverence that he wishes to show. The camps of the tents of green. 41 times in Leaves of Grass the word green gets used. Which the days of peace keep filling, and the days of war keep filling with a mystic army. Of course, this mystic now for us is a word that we're very familiar with in Leaves of Grass. And then in parenthetics, it's too ordered. Is it too ordered forward, this mystic army? Is it too only halting a while till night and sleep pass over? Question mark, again, parenthetics. Now, in those tents of green. And this is going to be, and we've seen this regularly in drum taps, right, and post-drum taps. The idea, his argument, is that, no, The war isn't over, it's just over. The war isn't done, it's just over. This idea that there's another war, there's another battle to be fought, and of course it is now. In those camps of green, in their tents, dotting the world, again, Whitman, the universalist poet, dotting is used one time in all these grass, it's right here. In the parents, children, husbands, wives, in them, in the old and young, and then sounding very much like sleepers, sleeping under the sunlight, sleeping under the moonlight, content and silent, there at last. Now again, this is Whitman's theodicy, his explanation for why the war had to happen. It had to happen for you guys. It had to happen for the generations that would come. Without the sacrifice of the war, Whitman argues, none of us are here, none of us are talking about this glorious poetry. Behold, now again, when he uses that word, as we saw in drum taps, it's almost as if he's wanting you to look at a picture or an image of video, we would say today. Behold the mighty bivouac field. You'll remember bivouac from Song of Myself 33, from bivouac on a mountainside, and by the bivouac fitful flame. Those are the only other times that word gets used. And waiting camp of all. First it's the world, now it's of all. Of the corps and generals all, and the president over the corps and generals all. Obviously he's now going to reference Lincoln, although we'll have a recognition of a president in the next poem, The Sobbing of the Bells. Here we'll be talking about Garfield. And of each of us, O soldiers, and of each and all in the ranks we fought, and in parenthetics, there without hatred we all meet, in parenthetics. By the way, the phrase without hatred only is used one time in Leaves of Grass, and it's right here. I think it's significant that Whitman uses it this way. In other words, we cannot allow dissension, war, fighting, to disturb what is fundamental about American democracy and patriotism. That willingness to forgive, that willingness to look beyond, that willingness to live without hatred. For, notice we go from now to presently. For presently, O soldiers, we too camp in our place in the bivouac camps of green. But we need not provide for outpost nor word for the countersign, nor drummer to beat the morning drum. Now what is the argument that he's making? Well, I think it's a compelling argument, and he says it this way, and I think it's worthy of us to hear what this poet of so many years ago is saying about dissension in a democracy. Can we fight? Yes. Should we fight? Of course. And yet, the fighting is always secondary to the loving, and there mustn't be a hatred that begins to build. Even in the worst extreme, and obviously the worst extreme would be the American Civil War, without hatred. It's so important. In other words, at 2a, there's always the next war, but there cannot be the next hatred. We must move and live beyond the hatred. At 2b, I love his use of the word green. I love the idea that it's representative of hope, and of course in this, this idea of hope, esperanza, that idea that there's always the willingness to look forward to something. At 3a, I love the idea that is echoed here from Song of the Open Road 14. Can I just share it with you again, because we love it so much in 303. We love to read it. We love to recite it. You'll maybe remember it. He will say it. Allons, let's go. Through struggle and wars, the goal that was named cannot be countermanded. Have the past struggles succeeded? What has succeeded? Yourself, your nation, nature? Now, understand me well. It is provided in the essence of things that from any fruition of success, no matter what, shall come forth something to make a greater struggle necessary. This idea of a greater struggle is obviously central to Camps of Green. Finally, at 3b, what is for you the toughest, the hardest war that you have had to struggle through? And to what degree have you had to struggle to live without hatred? It's not always easy, and yet Whitman argues you gotta learn how to do that. Thank you.